Recently, I've had the privilege to work with families in those earliest hours and days after their babies have been born in the hospital. And I've been able to observe some simple adjustments that families can make while in the hospital or as they transition home that could perhaps ease some of those early struggles in those first days or weeks. If you are somebody who will be delivering a baby in a hospital in the upcoming months or years, and you are hoping that your feeding journey will go just a little bit more smoothly, or you are somebody who supports families regularly in the hospital as a doula or a lactation professional, and you are wondering if there is a way to make feeding just a little bit less frustrating for families in those early hours and days, then this is the episode for you. So let's get into it.
When I began breastfeeding, I was blindsided by how difficult it was. I may have thought I was prepared, but having known only a handful of people who had ever breastfed and only seeing it up close from a couple of them, I had a huge learning curve. Since then, I've become a doula, a lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, and I welcome you to the Milk Making Minutes, where we explore breastfeeding experiences through the lens of systemic barriers, so that you know your breastfeeding struggles are not your fault, and your triumphs really are the miracles you feel they are.
As always, I never claim to know everything about any individual situation. And of course, there is no way that I could give information that is going to 100% make everybody's feeding journey absolutely amazing right off the start, given all the systemic barriers that we all face. And knowing that, oftentimes, by the time somebody is trying to feed their baby, they have already gone through so much in the birthing process that might have impacted what is going to happen with feeding. And so here is what I have observed, just some little quick tips that I think can help every family. Number one is I am noticing that so many people are starting off wearing nursing specific clothing in the hospital. Now, I'm a big fan of them. However, in the early days of establishing breastfeeding, I think we should be encouraging families to be wearing something different, especially in the hospital and when they are at home nursing their babies. So, if we can suggest to families to limit the visitors, especially if they're going to feel exposed, to keep some sort of robe on or a button up shirt that they can open easily, and to continue to do as much skin to skin time as possible, especially while feeding, this really does help babies to organize themselves for feeding from the body, and it helps milk supply. We know that we're seeing milk supply come in later in hospital settings than we might see it in other settings. We know milk supply comes in later on average for cesarean deliveries than it does for vaginal deliveries. Often, this has to do with how quickly a person is able to begin feeding their baby or pumping after the delivery. But one thing that can help is as much skin to skin time as possible. And when people are wearing those nursing shirts and then only exposing a little bit of their breast to try to feed the baby, they're not getting the skin to skin time. The other thing I'm noticing about the nursing shirts is the cloth of the nursing shirt, especially as they are trying to learn how to get enough tissue into the baby's mouth to feed, gets in the way of getting a good wide latch for that baby. And in these early hours and days, both the parent and the baby are really trying to get organized. There's a steep learning curve. And we just want to eliminate any extra material that would get in the way of getting as much tissue in the mouth as we can get. And so if we can kindly offer a suggestion and explain why we are offering that suggestion and not ever make anybody feel like they have made a wrong or a bad choice. There's a way to do this, right? So, hey, I love your nursing shirt. It's really cool. That is going to come in so handy as you are out and about nursing your baby. It's going to help you feel so comfortable. As you are learning this new skill for both you and your baby, can I suggest that you put on something else? I can provide a robe for you if that's more helpful. If you have button up shirts, that could be really helpful because right now it's really important that you are skin to skin while you're nursing. That's good for your hormones. It is good for your baby to be able to be skin to skin with you, to get organized, to learn that latch, suck, swallow, and you're really going to catch on to feeding your baby more quickly if you are able to maintain that skin to skin contact. If we can do that and eliminate more of these nursing shirts in the early days and weeks, I think parents are going to catch on a little quicker and there's going to be one less thing getting in the way. Something else I've noticed is babies have their hats on during nursing. They still are standard practice in hospitals, and there's nothing really wrong with them, except they really aren't necessary, especially when we have skin to skin contact. So, skin to skin contact does a much better job of regulating a baby's body temperature than a hat does. And smelling the top of the head is really critical to the oxytocin release, to helping mom release the colostrum and then later the mature milk. And so we really do want the parent to be able to smell the baby's head. So if they're going to leave the hat on when they're not holding the baby, great. But when they are feeding, let's ask the parent to remove the hats. The same with babies being covered, those little garments that they wear in the hospital. They often have a little sleeve that allows them to cover their hands so that they don't scratch their faces. Some babies really come out with full nails already and they're scratching their faces. But while they're feeding, allow those hands free. So, as a lactation consultant, these are the things that I'm looking at as we're getting babies set up. Preferably, they take that off while they are feeding. And that helps to get baby less sleepy, especially if they have a sleepy baby for the feeding. But we also want baby skin to skin and we want baby's hands free for the feeding.
Hi, I'm Kanika, and you're listening to That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast, where I interview public figures on their life lessons in parenting, legacy, and built-in sixth sense.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland, and you're checking out That's Total Mom Sense.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton, and my experience on That's Total Mom Sense was fantastic.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
Thank you to my guests, brand partners, community, and you for making this show possible. Episodes released every Thursday wherever you listen to podcasts. You can join my tribe by logging on to thatstotalmomsense.com and by following me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive in to today's episode.
So these are some of the small details that we are going to pay attention to as the person helping the feeding family. Or if you are the feeding family, this is something you're going to pay attention to. You're going to free that baby's hands to be able to move around on your body. Think about a kitten or a dog. When they are nursing, their little paws are free. They're pushing against the mammary gland. That helps move the milk. It helps bring the milk down. There's a hormonal flow that happens between the feeding parent and the baby as they're able to touch that body. But having their hands free helps them to be able to locate the nipple. It stimulates the release of oxytocin and it stabilizes and calms themselves. This is from a study from 2010 that I'm citing from Breastfeeding Answers, a guide for helping families from Nancy Moorbacher's book. And babies' hands are also a part of their internal navigation system. So it just helps them feel more centered and grounded in the world to have their hands free and being able to touch you as they are nursing. The same goes for their feet. I'm also noticing that once we get babies set up to nurse, that their feet are hanging. And what I like to do is find a pillow. Often there's pillow shortages in the hospital, and there's not enough, but I like to find a pillow, some towels in a drawer, fold them up, roll them up, and then make sure that baby's feet, if they're not touching the parent's body, that they aren't dangling. When the baby's feet are dangling, again, those feet are a part of their internal navigation system. And if they are dangling, they feel kind of lost in space and they don't feel as settled. And it is harder for them to focus on the task at hand of nursing. So if you were able to just slip something else underneath their feet, you'll find that they're able to relax and settle into that latch, suck, swallow rhythm that we are looking for. And then the final thing that I just want to point out is making sure that baby's tummy is aligned to the parent's body. So whether they're in the football hold, which is really commonly taught in hospitals, but I find most parents, when they go home, they really don't prefer the football hold. I'm not really sure why this is so commonly taught in hospitals. I really can't figure it out. That is still befuddling me a little bit because most often, once parents get home, they really don't use it very frequently. But even if they're in the football hold, we really want to make sure that the baby's tummy is aligned to the parent's tummy. And if we can get it to where that skin to skin contact as well, so shirt is up and baby's shirt is at least open, that's really going to help that feeding. So I hope these tips help. They're just small little adjustments that can really be made pretty easily, and it can go a long way to helping baby feel really grounded so that they can focus on the task at hand of getting that nice wide latch. If you are struggling to feed your baby and you would like to have a one-on-one consultation with me, that most likely will be covered with insurance no matter where you are in the country, whether it's virtually or if you're close to me here in Massachusetts, I'd love to see you in person. I would love to be the person who helps you feel really good about nursing your baby. So you can reach out to me at quabbinbirthservices.com. There's a place right on my website where you can get your insurance verified. And if it doesn't check out there, just reach out to me via email, and I have other sources of verifying insurance. And I would love to help you feeling really good about your baby feeding. Thanks. Bye.